Hello, 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 everyone. Hoping that you can all hear me well. Just going to do another quick audio check. Yes, that all appears to be doing well after I run around for some headphones and all sorts. I stole these ones from my husband, who is an amazing little gamer. I don't know, they're all black and crazy. These are gamer headphones. Apparently, there is a difference. So, pink hair. This is my daughter living vicariously through me. Apparently, she can't dye her hair pink for because school won't allow it. So she said she wanted to know what it looked like on at least a family member of hers. Pink. This is really pink. It's a lot. And you should know that this is bold for me. So tonight I have a wonderful show. So there was a lot that went on this week, and I'm not sure how much I didn't get to catch much of the news this week, but I did catch a lot of political stuff. And as usual, a lot of it is garnered from Twitter. But here's the super interesting part. Um, as we're going to talk about what news is coming up, we're going to need to discuss how we handle uh, disappointing news, like um, the news of the National Cabinet. I think that that was a mistake by Albo to put it out there that no more isolation and a step back from as if the pandemic is essentially over. I'm not, I don't have the luxury of believing that. I can't do the old, well, let's just pretend like this thing is over. Um, I am vaccinated. I do wear a mask and all sorts of other things. But I don't do this just for me. I do this for my family. I don't just keep me healthy for them either. That it's done for a whole range of reasons. Um, and I don't believe that any health administration would give the advice that basically claiming the pandemic is over. I just don't see it. So, with that, let's start off tonight with oh, ICAC party issues, third party issues. So, it's come to my attention that ICAC is going to be a really big thing for Labor. And they do plan to commit to talking about how much corruption is in government. Now, do keep in mind that this will be done, if done effectively, by an independent body, not of Labor's choosing. It'll be independent. They don't get to like cherry pick someone. And it very well could get both sides of politics because typically what happens is if you think that corruption doesn't end out on both sides of politics, be a little bit naive. Corruption is on all sides of politics. It doesn't matter if you're a teal, you're a green, you're for Labor, you're for Liberal, One Nation, what have you. This will be a catch-all. Now, that is an effective ICAC, if you ask me. That it doesn't just look into what each party does, it looks into all parties. So I think that that will be the most effective one. But let's have a look at the discussion around that. Because I think that that's going to come up a lot. And I think that this is an issue that we need to look at. Any person could be probed by a new corruption watchdog. Mark Dreyfus says. Okay, the federal corruption watchdog will be given the power to investigate anyone who tries to introduce public officials to engage in dishonest conduct, widening the scope to capture third parties in a pivotal reform to improve integrity in government. So this means if you have some sort of outside player that is not an MP of any kind, but is a buddy that's, I don't know, in the business lobby or whatever else it is, or and has uh, a way of getting their hands dirty for you for whatever reason, there will be consequences. And I think that this is coming to light because there have been a few third party actors. Now, you have to understand that this wasn't just plucked out of thin air. There definitely had to be something where someone was like, "Hey, what made that part of your scope?" So that's a really good question, and why I want to touch on that is because I think that there is good logic behind doing that. So the new commission will also be able to probe schemes that allow federal ministers to hand out public funds in discretionary grants, subjecting the pork barreling program to greater scrutiny, which one of them I would go with off the top of my head is the Governor General. So the Governor General was handed a lot of money. I don't know if he's been handed all that money yet to start a charity. This third party rule, I think, is going to be big. Mark is on the right track in dealing with this. I think uh, getting anyone that decided to play a role in this level of corruption needs to be held accountable. So this is going to have everyone go, whoa, I don't want to touch any of this. And keep in mind that this will be a probe into all of it. So this will have a broader scope than what we thought before. But the government is heading for a dispute in Parliament over the scale of the new powers after experts said the Commission should also be able to investigate business figures, lobbyists, and family members and third parties who engage in deception of public officials. Now, that part's going to be important because what we're going to be met with is essentially someone saying, why did you do that? And how did you go about doing that? And I think that there should be consequences. For instance, what I see in politics on a lot of sides is them saying, I don't need to tell you I have that home. It's in my wife's or my husband's name. It's like, yeah, I think you probably should have said something. They're like, no, they're not part of the political arm. They're just on the other side, or one of their children that they've gifted it to. No, that's dodgy, and there's a reason that you've done it. I need to know what that reason is, and if you can't be honest, it's weird. Okay, the former Supreme Court Judge Anthony Whaley Casey, the chair of the Centre of Public Integrity, welcomed the government's move but said the federal bill should match the New South Wales and Victorian laws that expose third party to investigation if they misled officials who are not corrupt. In a key step setting up the commission next year, Attorney General Mark Dreyfus cleared the draft plan all through a Labor caucus committee on Monday night before taking it to a full caucus meeting on Tuesday. The hope of passing the legislation by the end of the year. Now that basically sets out a timeline. So if you're not aware, Labor use this as like a pin up for the reason that you should vote Labor. Now, earlier in the program, you would have heard that I do criticize all parts of government. There isn't a part that I won't touch that you can get cranky at me about, and that's fine. But the fact that Labor is sticking to this and then saying, by the end of the year, we want it passed, the ICAC has to be in full motion. So passing it through the party caucus is one thing. Getting it fully passed on a legislative level, I think is going to be amazing. The integrity campaigners and the independent MPs have urged the government to ensure the agency to be known as the National Anti-Corruption Commission, or NACC, will not only be able to investigate politicians and public servants, but also those who try to bribe them or encourage them in corruption. Hence the third party rule. This is going to be a very, very interesting one to watch. Why? Because I believe that there is a lot of third party players. And it's interesting that they're noting these third party players. Why? Because I believe that it's going to come up a lot that so and so helped out with such and such deal. And I think that that's going to be an ongoing issue. For instance, Minister for Everything, Scott Morrison. You can't tell me that man acted alone. There is absolutely no way that man just from the seat of his pants just decided I'm going to do all of this crap on my own and totally independent, no one's advice played a role here. And it's not going to look good for these third parties. In relation to third parties, the Commission will have broad powers to investigate allegations of serious systematic corruption, all by the public official. Dreyfus told the Parliament after an independent MP, Zoe Daniel, asked about the scope of the powers. Now, I will give Zoe Daniel this. If you watch her on Twitter, she's quite good at discussing these sorts of matters. She's very concise. She knows exactly what she's after, and she is committing to the Teal promise on ICAC climate change. She is a staunch advocate for these things. Simon Holmes of Court did do a great thing here. Getting these Teals in was a way of saying, as much as I'm into the idea less seats for Labor, let's be clear, they're honestly fighting issues, the same issues that the left want. By and large, we'll have to see what their voting record turns out to be, but we'll see. The Commission will be able to investigate corruption issues that could involve serious systematic conduct by any person that could be adversely affected by the honesty or impartiality of the public official's conduct. Wow. A key element would be to ensure the new power applies only to serious or systematic conduct. So it'll be up to the Commission's leaders to determine if the conduct reaches that threshold. Now, that part's going to be important because this means that this body that is created will have the ability to determine what should be seen and what shouldn't. In other words, if something doesn't meet a right standard, it won't just be thrown in there for a political football. And yes, politics is a political football. Make no mistake, there would not be an integrity commission if it was not a gigantic football that they could kick at each other with. I don't think any government is keen to go, hey, yeah, I want you to probe into me super duper hard to see if you can find anything. That's not really how government likes things to be done, but it's very public popular. So then they're like, okay, well, we're going to have to do this if we want to win. In revealing the key elements of the plan, Dreyfus clears up the way for a vote on the crucial Labor election promise almost 4 years after the former Prime Minister Scott Morrison vowed to set up a National Integrity Commission, only to disappoint advocates by never putting the bill into Parliament. So, that's going to be a very important issue. And why? Because I believe that once Labor tackle this and that's set into place, one of the things that I want to see in place of this, and I am talking to the Teals and Labor about this, is I want an ICAC that can't be messed with. Say, for instance, like our ABC, that's our ABC, and the government appoints the board. What did the government of that day do to the ABC board? They messed with it, right? And they put in little LMP hacks that could do anything they wanted. And they ruined the integrity of the ABC. I think something very similar could happen if the Liberals got in charge of something like this. I want to make it so there is no wiggle room to make this non-independent. So they could take one of the bodies and then go, hey, I just would give my buddy the job, so there's nothing to see here, That's what I'm really concerned with. In relation to pork barrelling decisions, the allocation of public funds should be made, of course, in the public interest, Dreyfus told Parliament. The government will not be instructing the Commission on what particular matters it can and cannot investigate. It'll be up to the Commission to decide what matters it investigates. Now, the reason I find this a very interesting comment is because that's showing its impartiality to this situation. It's showing flat out, this is what we want. We don't want you to look at us and then go, hey, don't look at our side or anything. No, they're saying, no, take a good look. And it's something that I will say is more honourable about the left, is at least they want someone to look into everything. So, to be clear, the Commission considers the administration of a particular discretionary grants program, which give rise to a serious or systematic corruption issues. The Commissioner will have the ability to investigate that issue. While the issue has been debated for months, Dreyfus has avoided public declaration on the third parties on pork barrelling, while seeking support from the Greens crossbenchers and at the same time opposition leader Peter Dutton. So the coalition might vote for the bill. So if Peter Dutton is serious and he wants to vote for this bill, put your money where your mouth is. This is meant to come up by the end of the year. And I'm going to use Peter Dutton's words against him and he can toe the party line. But here's the deal. Labor isn't interested in doing a deal on this. They're not interested in amendments or anything crazy. One of your weird stunts where you go, I can't agree to this because so-and-so might be looked at. Here's the thing I want to know. Will this just be another political stunt from the LNP or will they take it seriously? That is going to be a crucial question. Daniel, the member for Goldstein, Melbourne, said the Attorney General's answer was a good sign, but the next step was to ensure the reform had protections for whistleblowers, a guarantee of funding the Commission of proper and parliamentary oversight. Establishing some form of integrity commission has now cross-party support, and the government may gain an overwhelming majority for the bill in Parliament, removing the potential political advantage in passing the bill with votes from the crossbench and isolating the coalition in order to portray Peter Dutton as weak on corruption, which that's exactly where I was at. That's exactly what I want to touch. I think that the LNP are going to be like, no, we did too much bad here. And we're not going to touch any of this. This is like really out of bounds for them. And every time they're given this opportunity, they're given a gigantic wet slap back. And it's horrendously bad. Most state commissions can investigate third parties as well as public officials they suspect of corruption, but debates have now flared over the powers after a High Court found in favour of barrister Margaret Cunnan. She challenged the New South Wales Independent Commission against Corruption. New South Wales and Victorian law now allows the anti-corruption commissions to investigate third parties who impair public confidence in the public administration, citing examples such as the collusive tendering, fraud, dishonesty, and gaining payment of public funds. When phrased by the board, when we praised the board an effective definition of corruption, Dreyfus revealed on Monday that he said the wrongdoing could occur when third parties engage in serious deception of public officials, even when the officials themselves did not do anything corrupt. Accountability for the round-the-table dinner for Fiona McLennan, ACKC, told a key element of the statement. Dreyfus on Monday was the requirement of the conduct to be serious, systematic, and warrant an investigation. Another member of the Centre for Public Integrity, former Victorian Court Appeal Judge Stephen Charles, welcomed the latest move Dreyfus, despite questions over the deceptive conduct by third parties. Now, this is going to be a big deal. Now, the reason I'm touching this so heavily is because I believe that this is going to ramp up into something big. So let's see where that goes. So a lot of you watch what I post. This one happened to be something that appeared in my feed. And I thought, why would a government feel inclined to pay something like this? So what ended up happening here, do you notice? I'm a lot more organized than my StreamYard this time. The assistant for Jane Hume, Minister for Superannuation, Financial Services and Digital Economy, Minister for Women, Economic Security. I have approved assistance under the Section 85 of the Parliamentary Business Resources Regulations. And the Senator Jane Hume, Minister for Superannuation Services, Digital Economy, and Minister for Women's Economic Security in relation to defamation claim made against a minister on the 4th of May 2022. I've approved the payment, Commonwealth, of costs of legal representation in relation to proceedings and other costs relating to the proceedings. In the dying days of the Morrison government, weeks after the election was called, Michaelia Cash authorised almost all Senator James Hume's legal expenses to be paid in a defamation complaint filed against her by Simon Holmes a court. In accordance with Section 82, regulation proceedings, a reasonable amount payable by the minister in a settlement from the proceedings, subject to any such settlement being consistent with the legal principle and practice. Now, this is going to be an issue because they always approve these weird things where it's a personal matter and then they would use public funds to cover it. This is the sort of stuff ICAC needs to cover. Okay, now, I don't know how many of you have seen this. So CPAC is a conservative talking fest. It involved people from all around the world. So in doing that, I thought we would have a look at exactly. The foundation always makes my nose itchy. I don't know why. It's weird. We would have a look at who some of the people and players that came to this. Now, there's a couple of things here. There's a dispute within the Liberal Party and a couple of others that are a little bit unhappy. So there was Tony Abbott. He rocked up. Tony Abbott recycles the same old climate change science denial to the faithful in Australia. His comments are met with whoops and whistles and applause and rapture, promoting climate change denial economists. You should try this myth on white people with the people of Lismore that recently experienced a flood. And yes, we have a CPAC. We've had one for a long time, but a lot of people weren't aware that we were copying the American branding of this. There's more coverage of that I want to show you. See, these are really painful to watch. So when you see it, I want you to know that this is going to be the thing that we don't want to see. Oh, no, that's not it. I wanted to... What is... Oh, yeah, I know now. Here we go. This is funny. Okay, so the lineup is this. Okay. Okay. Hold on. We'll go back down and then we'll go to the part that I originally needed to because I think that lines it up. The audience has really turned against this penalty. There's a full-on back and forth over whether support for the Liberal Party remains.
Conservative go. Worse than a socialist.
Hold on. So as this tees up, I need you to know that the Liberal Party is arguing with itself. And as they go along, you realise that they're going to do their typical thing. Hey, no conservative would ever criticise a conservative. It has to be a lefty, stirring everything up. Watch this.
Conservative go. Worse than a socialist audience. Give me a chance to speak. I feel like I found myself on the set of Q&A.
See, when a party isn't popular, they need their echo chambers, and CPAC was perfect for that. See, and this is how you know that they hate the ABC, when they're saying things like, "Hey, I thought I was at a Q&A session, on the ABC." They're fighting it out. They're very angry.
Right, come on, please allow Nick to finish what he's going to say. Hey, now, come on, a little bit of courtesy. We are courteous on the Conservative side.
Listen, I was a profound Conservative and fought every Conservative fight in the Liberal Party for 30 years.
Yeah, pretending that you're more classier. I'd invite you to check out the Young Liberals. Pretending that your side is more classier is just dishonest right from the gate. I think that it's wrong.
I was on the trenches. I know what it's like. So I'm not going to take any rubbish from you lot. I'm sorry. The Liberal Party's values are values you should all support. Go and read the platform of the party. Read We Believe. We stand for small government. We stand for...
This is at his own rally. Like, this is like conservative heaven, and they're still like, boo. No, this is hilarious. This is great. Even in their safe spaces, they're still like, still not happy with us? What happened?
Low taxation. We stand for federation. We stand for good government. Now, the candidates we select are a function of you. It's a function of the members of the party. We have plebiscites around Australia. We select the candidates and we decide who goes into Parliament. And it's our job as party members to keep them on.
So, this is wild. This is wild. Okay, so they had like people on the panel, and they were really unhappy. After calming down, the tension between the audience and the panel has picked up again. A man shouting and walking towards the stage. One of the panel accuses him of being a lefty, which frustrates the crowd. So it's turned bad really quickly. These conservatives are fighting now between themselves. Remember that they did lose 20 seats from the inner city regions, and they're trying to find a way to identity crisis kind of thing. So this isn't new for certain, I don't know, parties that have extremism involved. So when you hear this kind of thing and they're like, no, it's got to be the left's fault when we're being criticized, that's weird. I don't know where that comes from. It's like they've got no thought for self-reflection. It's so strange.
Fighting force to knock off this Labor government, and we can build a fantastic future for this country.
The message is simple. Just don't get up on a set.
Queen, get up first.
Yeah, no. Do you hear that? Just don't give up on us. They're very, very clear that they can see the writing on the wall, and are pretty like, hey, yeah, don't you dare give up on us. That seems to be the issue here, is that they're pretty scared that they're losing members.
Can I say that?
Come on, please.
I hope we will take away from this.
See the gentleman walking?
Can I just finish
We
my
got
contribution?
one of those lefties get in the room. Is that what happened? One of the lefties from outside?
Yeah, okay. And so anytime you're going to criticize, I mean, it has to be a lefty, right? It couldn't be that your platform just sucks and that you really lost out big time. And you thought that this was going to be a winning move to copy the Americans, take on CPAC, and thought, wow, this will be awesome. This is the best echo chamber ever. Didn't work out so well, buddy, at all.
Sorry, if you could.
Look, if you don't want to hear what I have to say, I can
Let people make their point.
Look, I
fighting force to knock off this Labor government.
Okay, so that when you have hold on, I should have kept that going. Hold on, that'll be just there. Okay, so what we're gonna see here, I really want to break down what this is. Okay, attendees at CPAC got a show bag, including a special offer to join the IPA, which is, you know, the Australian version of let me rip you off, call it a charity, and fund right-wing extremism. A copy of the Spectacular and a copy of the Epoch Times, far-right international multi-language newspaper and media company, which is affiliated with the Falun Gong new religious movement. So, yeah, not great. So, popular rapper Zuby is giving a TED Talk style speech based on one of his tweet threads. Ross Cameron and Mark Latham first up, not long before declaring they need evidence-based views. Latham says that long COVID isn't a real biological condition. Long COVID is a mental state that he says is caused by watching the mainstream media. Yeah, because that's how science works. Okay, so these are then they have to mock people that are trying to figure out who they are and have come up with their own pronouns. The whole thing is basically an insult to any good, decent human. I'm not a lefty because I believe in that label. I'm a lefty because I believe in being human. I believe in treating people with decency and kindness and treating them like they matter. I believe in funding a good homeless program. I believe in dealing with the poor and the needy. I believe in sustainability, in trying to help people out of family cycles that have ended them in terrible situations. For instance, a child that grows up in abuse is less likely to engage in issues at school. That's why I believe in being on the left, because they believe in doing something about that, which in terms of funding child services, keeping all that really well, and then helping families get out of domestically abusive situations. They also fund healthcare and loads of other things that I think benefit the wider range of the public. Because when we're helping our most needy in society, that is a true reflection of trying to make life better for everyone. What I see it as now is like the rich complaining whenever you help the poor and the rich always wanting more. And I'd like to see that script flipped. Next, what I want to talk about is last weekend there was a hot mic moment from David Spears. So listen to this moment when he discusses this. Oh, no sound.
KangarooCourtofAustralia.com. G'day, it's Fugitive Australian journalist Shane Dowling from the website KangarooCourtofAustralia.com. Now, on Sunday the 25th of September 2022, ABC Insider's host David Spears was recorded on a hot mic trashing social media users, and he specifically named Twitter users. And I'm going to play that video in a second. It only goes for 40-odd seconds, but it gives you a true indication of who David Spears is and his viewpoint to the world, so to speak. But it's worth noting the background to that video, who's on his show and what their background is, and David Spears and his background. Now, David Spears is a long-term Murdoch employee, pushing Murdoch's propaganda, Rupert Murdoch and Murdoch's propaganda on Sky News for many years. And on the show that day was Samantha Maiden, another News Corp propagandist, along with James Campbell, who's one of the biggest propagandists. He doesn't hesitate to lie and deceive on behalf of Murdoch on a daily basis, where Samantha Maiden is more of a sleeper, She'll put out genuine articles on News Corp, their website, on a regular basis, but when called upon, she'll start pushing the Murdoch line. And also on that show was Jane Hume, a Liberal Party propagandist. May as well say she's an employee of Murdoch's, because we know the Liberal Party and national parties push Murdoch's propaganda, and they work together. Also on the show was Catherine Murphy from The Guardian, but she's also worked for Murdoch previously. And as some have pointed out on social media, when people like Catherine Murdoch go on The Insiders or other ABC programs, they don't call it out like they should. So let's have a listen to the video.
Are we going to do a photo? Terrific. Let's get a photo. Just for those lovely folks on social media.
My friends on Facebook.
Yeah.
Hi guys.
It's horrible, horrible place. And after years of copying it, you just have to tell yourself there are hundreds of thousands watching and a few hundred who tweet.
Yeah.
So you just got to remember it's.
We don't even have to be 100. It's all anonymous accounts.
Probably like
It's very bad. Like 40 people, basically.
15 people, but there are
Yeah.
far more who are just loving our work.
Please, guys.
Here we go.
And 3, 2, 1.
Now let's recap on what David Spears said. He said social media is a horrible, horrible place. After years of copying it, you have to tell yourself there are hundreds of thousands watching and only a few hundred who tweet. Far more loving our work. So there you go. There's David Spears playing the stock standard News Corp routine. After years of copying it, always playing the victim. News Corp propagandists do it all the time. Andrew Blott's always playing the victim. Oh, I'm being attacked. While they're attacking anyone and everyone that stands in Murdoch's road. Now, David Spears knows he's been pushing propaganda for Rupert Murdoch and Lachlan Murdoch for years on Sky News, and he continues to do it on the Insider Show by having Murdoch propagandists on there trying to beef up their credibility. So for him to claim that he's been copying it for years, well, he knows why he's been copying it, because he's been pushing propaganda and lies on behalf of Murdoch. So he should stop playing the victim card, and which is, like I said, is News Corp's 101. They fall back to that all the time. You've seen Andrew Blott play the victim all the time, Peter Van Onselen playing the victim, etc. Whenever they get caught out attacking minorities, individuals, they'll turn around and play the victim themselves. That's what David Spears has done this time. So anyone who's watching that program or tweeting about that program, well, you're just helping promote the propaganda. That, please share this video on Twitter and Facebook, etc. And
so that's an indication of what's going on there. So this brings me back to how they've destroyed our ABC for purely political gain so they can keep pushing their propaganda. It's disgraceful. Speaking of media, The Age have put out a correction, and I will find it. Here we go. The Age has been corrected by Victorians following its bizarre claim that Melbourne should look to Sydney for guidance on coming out of the COVID doona. Victoria's retail and trade performance is ranked the best in Australia, and so is its economy. New South Wales is 7th. They really, really need to fix up their rhetoric. And if they don't, that's on them. But it's not honest if they're going to be pushing that massive lie. So, here is a moment that I thought wouldn't have to be really gone over, but apparently we need to point out the incredibly stupid things that they do. Oof. Okay, so as usual, the LNP have no sense of shame in what they do. So when you hear them talk, you think, no.
Senator Sarah Henderson is the shadow minister.
It always plays before I'm ready. And so it always starts out with, how are you not embarrassed to say what you're about to say? And this setup is without even like a laughing joke in the background. they're serious. It's as if people like have no memory of what they've done. And this is in relation to the Optus breach. Now, if you remember, Labor was saying, hey, maybe you should do something about this. And turns out that the Liberal Party was helping Optus to avoid any oversight on how they held their data. Now that this data breach has been so big and it's been for customers over the past 10 years that you've been with Optus, now all telecommunications companies have to retain your data for 10 years. That's the setup. By law, after 9/11, there were all these laws about communications that had to be held. So Labor is in power now, and they haven't really had time to sort of wrap their head around all of this. But now you have the Liberal Party that had 9 years to look at this and was actively helping Optus to avoid any real consequences. Now you have the Liberal Party spouting this kind of rubbish. Sarah's not the first one to pull a stunt like this. This is like now they're touring rhetoric.
Senator Sarah Henderson is the Shadow Minister for Communications, and she joins me live on the line. Senator, welcome back to the program.
Jim, wonderful to join you.
Do you welcome the government's announcement to review privacy laws?
Look, I do, but unfortunately it is too little too late. Julie and Lisa, the Shadow Attorney General, and myself called on the government to act urgently on online privacy protections back in July, building on the extensive work of our government. And
What work did you do, Sarah? Did you help the Optus company not do an oversight? That's exactly what you did. You did the opposite of what you're asking Labor to do. See, this is my point. The rhetoric does not meet reality. And they have no ability, no shame to look at it and then go, yeah, okay, maybe I did do this wrong.
It really fell on deaf ears, Jim, and it is a real pity, frankly, that it's taken the cyber attack on Optus for this government to wake up.
But the coalition, in fairness, was in government for 9 years, Senator. So why weren't online privacy laws already strengthened in that time?
Well, there was an enormous amount of work, Jim, to strengthen online privacy.
Now, why wasn't she pulled back on that? Because that's not true. What they were trying to do was attack social media users. When she says online stuff, she means like silencing anyone that disagreed with them. That's what they were trying to do. She doesn't mean securing our data. Oh, no, absolutely not. That's fraud. They are such frauds.
Laws. The Department of Attorney General was conducting a very wide-ranging review into the Privacy Act. And in fact, we recognised the urgency and brought forward a particular bill to deal with social media companies and large online platforms, including the telcos. So dealing with things like ensuring consumers had or able to get full consent in relation to the use of their personal information and giving them the right to ask a telco or a large platform to cease using or disclosing their personal information. So we actually released that bill as an exposure draft. There was extensive consultation. Would you believe Optus even argued that it should not be required to comply with those tougher privacy laws? It argued it should be exempt, which is frankly outrageous. And
she forgets that Optus argued all of that while they were the ones in power. See, now. Deep breath in. Okay. So they were arguing this. This is what I mean about pushback. There needs to be greater pushback to that comment. Optus were arguing that before the data breach, before all of that, while the LNP still had power, and they helped them. Amazing.
That's why we did ask the government to pick that work up. I mean, we understand there was a change of government.
And that's about it for her propaganda of the day. I'm not going to help her be that disingenuous. It's just not great. Okay, so this is a moment where I thought, I don't know how we're gonna. I did say that we would be touching on some American stuff tonight. Okay, so think this one. Okay, so Republicans always have this stance about mass shootings. Now, as devastating as what there are solutions that work. There's gun laws that you can implement. There's mental health that you can do. There's a whole range of things that you can do. You can do banning of certain weapons. You can make licensing a little bit more stringent. There's a whole range of things that you can do that we know is effective. You can make it more difficult for people to be out and about with them. You know, I'm an anti-gun person myself, only because I've seen the side effects of a gun. When you've seen someone that you really like not come home to you again, that's going to be an issue. So when I watch the gun debates, I'm always flabbergasted how nothing ever gets done. So Republicans' mass shootings aren't a gun issue, right? That's their claim. They're mental health issues. We must fund the mental health service, right? That sounds like a good stance to have. Also, Republicans. 205 Republicans vote against school-based mental health services. There's just no level of depravity from them. The USA is a cesspool of wrong. So do with that what you will. But I'm not impressed with that at all. So I wanted to show you a throwback of Sean Hannity. Now, he was called out for what he does. And he's very good at what he does. The level of propaganda that he engages in, and this was a while ago, and I think it's an important thing to remember that it can happen anywhere, and it does happen here. So taking a listen to this 40-second clip of him being called out.
We have to give some credit to the American people that they're somewhat intelligent and that they know the difference between an opinion show and a news show.
Yeah.
You're cynical. Look at it.
I am cynical because
you think we're bad for America? You think I'm bad for America?
Yeah.
You do.
In the long haul, I think you and all these opinion shows.
That's sad, Ted.
No, you know why?
That's sad.
Because you're very good at what you do, and because you have attracted a significantly more influential. Let me finish the sentence.
I'm listening.
You do that.
With all due respect.
You have attracted people who are determined that ideology is more important than facts.
We have to give some credit to the American people.
And that there says it all. You have presented an ideology that makes facts irrelevant. That's the whole conservative movement. That right there. Every time a conservative speaks to me, all I hear is facts are gone, your ideology matters more, and that's where we're at. Speaking of that. So, this is going to be interesting. Hold on, I've got it. I was doing really, really well right up until then. Okay. So Here is the latest conspiracy theory that they have got going. The latest right wing conspiracy theory: deep state used weather manipulation to create Hurricane Ian to punish the red states. Yes, because conservatives, something, something, something. It doesn't matter what the facts are, and this is exactly what I mean. They become ideologues, not actually people who believe in anything truthfully. They just push a narrative that helps their view count, and I think it's quite clear that I don't do that, which doesn't make me as popular as many shows.
They have weather manipulation technology. They have DARPA. They know how to manipulate and create big storms, hurricanes, tornadoes, climate change.
Now, this type of level of conspiracy theory only exists in their echo chambers. It's nuts that they get to espouse this stuff, and they make a lot of money out of doing it. There is nothing to suggest that anything that they claim will ever be true. Just for those of you in the back who think that this is like the news, it's not. It's deliberate misinformation. So be aware of that as you're listening.
Etc. And these huge hurricanes always seem to target red states, red districts.
So, of course, that's a weird thing to say. There's no factual basis for it. She just says it and seems to be okay with just lying to her people.
Districts, and always at a convenient time, typically right before elections, or, in this case, possibly because Ron DeSantis has been stepping out of line a lot and fighting the deep state. I don't know, Lauren. The timing is definitely interesting, and they're even saying it. Do you think this could be a weather manipulated hurricane?
How insane does this sound? I have to keep in it because, you need to absorb how crazy this sounds.
Yeah, well, we know the technology does exist. I mean, Deanna, they're literally trying to change people's DNA through vaccination. Of course, they would be willing to do something like this to target red states. I have no doubt. I mean, the technology exists to manipulate weather.
Of course, it just seems logical that you would do these sorts of things. You would actively kill people to stay in the ideology. That just seems to make sense. What is wrong with Republicans? Why do they need this? They don't need this grifting. It's beyond reprehensible that they're allowed to say this sort of stuff. Weather manipulation in red states just because we're getting close to an election. That's what they think the left do. They think that they want death on people. This is insane.
And this whole storm coming. I know that Florida is prone to hurricanes. However, this developed into a Cat 4 or Cat 5 overnight.
Right.
And it does seem to be hitting the conservative areas of the state. I'm not putting it past the elites to.
Oh yeah, blame the elites for, I don't know, giving you a hurricane. They don't even hear it. They don't even hear the irony of what they're saying. They just go with it. This doesn't seem unusual to them at all. This seems totally just a normal thing to say to your audience that, hey, no, the left hates you so much they're going to make a hurricane. Yeah, I think we're done rationalizing with these people. There needs to be regulation around this sort of propaganda. It's dangerous. It has no place in it anywhere.
Target something like this towards Florida as punishment for getting rid of vaccine mandates or getting rid of.
Do you remember when they were claiming this isn't like a far step from the religious groups claiming that floods and stuff were happening in certain blue states because, and I quote, those gay people, because they allowed same-sex marriage to happen. This isn't a new trend that they're pulling. They're just improvising it a little. So were they causing the mass weather manipulations when same-sex marriage was passed? I mean, if we're using their logic, let's just go straight down the line here and just say, no, this is nuts. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Child grooming. They are angry with us, and it wouldn't surprise me to find out. And yeah, the technology does exist, but you're not supposed to talk about that or know about that because that's controversial or a conspiracy theory. No, it's true.
They have
all of that. You are now part of listening to how their echo chamber works. They wholeheartedly go all in on it. This is real. This is the kind of people that I have to talk to daily to understand their mindset. And here's the thing, you can challenge them, but they're not really being challenged. They've sort of got an answer that's weirdly mirrored. It's like when you bring up that Trump was friends with Jeffrey Epstein, it turns into, oh yeah, they planted that evidence. No, dude, he's actively like got his arm around Jeffrey Epstein and playing buddy buddy. But they're like, oh yeah, they put him there. What? Why? He has a real quote of wishing Ghislaine Maxwell well. Oh yeah? How do you know that wasn't manipulated? Because he said it live, you dummy. Oh yeah? That's a deep fake. Oh my God, why are we doing this? This is like the quickest race to the bottom I've ever seen in society. So, our last story for the evening. Mike Pompeo. See, I didn't think I would catch something like this. I would love to hear the full context of this. Hold on. I don't know if this is actually up. Here we go. Hold on. Okay, so
I was the CIA director. We lied.
Hold on. Mike Pompeo has been put. There's no good context to this. He worked for Trump, and everything about this screams, what did you just admit to? I think this is going to have to come up for an investigation. So, Scott Morrison's mentor, Scott CIA Pompeo, had weekly discussions for 2 years on what did they discuss. Some Marines for Darwin, AUKUS, and China War. Taking on more portfolios, grooming the Governor General, the NDAs, the QAnon mates, and all of the above. The glory of the American experiment. Now listen to just how insane this is going to get. Now strap yourself in. There's no good way of contexting this. I can't give you a what did you just hear or prep you for this type of concern that I have.
I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. It's like we had entire training courses. It reminds you of the glory of the American experiment. I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. It's like we had entire training courses. It reminds you of the glory of the American experiment.
That is shocking. America just, there's no end to that level of depravity. And then hearing about how they send out these Republicans that are actively telling people, hey, no, they're creating weather manipulation in red states, so you won't be able to vote. What? It doesn't get crazier than what you just heard. But I think that puts it to where it should be, in the most insane place that you can possibly think of. I think politics here can get just as crazy. This is why you have to fund education at the top tier level. And if you don't and you leave some kids behind, this is what you get left with. But that's it for me. Have a wonderful week. I hope to see you all next week. Please like, share, and subscribe. I hope that you had fun with me. If you're watching on the playback and you have something that interests you, please shoot me a comment. I'm happy to respond and have a good dialogue with any audience that would love to listen. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening, and I will see you same time, same place next week. Bye.